Hey there, this is John Kaminsky. Working alongside Dr. Micah Woods at the Masters tournament was an eye-opener for soil management. We spent hours analyzing his detailed soil reports that provide actionable insights you simply can't get elsewhere. If you're serious about turfgrass management, you need two resources: PaceTurf's science-based guidelines at paceturf.org and the comprehensive soil testing and analysis at asianturfgrass.com. These aren't just websites, they're the difference between guessing and knowing exactly what your turf needs.
Hello, welcome to Turf Without Borders, the new podcast from ATC and Pace Turf, where we take a look at the way turfgrass is managed around the world. In this episode, I'm happy to welcome Mr. Bhupendra Singh, the golf course superintendent from Aamby Valley Golf Club in Western India. Welcome to the show, Bhupendra.
Thank you, Micah. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure seeing you again. And I remember when we first met, I think it was more than a decade ago.
It certainly was. I remember it fondly. I met you on my first trip to India in December of 2010, which seems like a long time ago. I've been to India many times since then, but that first trip was really special, really memorable, and we got a chance. You were working at Delhi Golf Club at the time, if I remember correctly, weren't you?
Yes, Micah. When you first arrived, I was at Delhi Golf Club, but since then there has been, as you know, in life of any golf course superintendent, we have many golf courses to move on. So currently I landed up in Aamby Valley Golf Course, which is on a hilly track in Sayadri Mountains of Maharashtra, Mumbai, close to Mumbai. So right now I'm here.
Okay, so you're in between Pune and Mumbai in the mountain range. Are those the Western Ghats? Is that the mountain range?
Yes, these are the Western Ghats, and it's a Lonavala. Basically, it's a mid between Mumbai and Pune, and from Lonavala, it's like 20 to 25 kilometers on the hills, and it's a huge city, basically a residential city on the hills. And there we have a nice championship golf course. I think it's about around 15, 20 years old. It's a full-fledged golf course. It's there.
Okay, what elevation are you at the golf course? Because if you're up in the hills, it's obviously Mumbai is at sea level, and then you come up into the mountains. What's your elevation?
Aamby Valley City, or this golf course, is around 700 meters from sea level. So that's the elevation. But the location is somewhat, it's a unique location in the sense that here on this golf course, we receive perhaps the maximum rainfall any golf course would be receiving in India. Last year, we had 5,500 millimeters of rains just in 3-4 months.
Wow. And so that's called the monsoon, isn't it?
Yes.
So you have a dry season where it basically doesn't rain, and then the monsoon starts. Can you describe to me what the seasons are like? Which months are rainy, which months are dry?
Yeah, so here in Aamby Valley, monsoon starts with June mostly. So we have first showers in the beginning of June, and then it continues, and it picks up end June, and then July, August. These are the two most rainiest months, and then it continues till September. And in these 3-4 months of monsoon stretch, we receive more than 5,000 mm of rains. Like last year, I received 5,500 millimeters of rains. The amount of rain which I witnessed for the first time in my life, in fact. Nowhere in India I saw this much rain, like in Delhi also, it's far less than what we have here. Even in Mumbai and Pune, it's not that much rain, though these are also rainy areas. But the location of this golf course within the hills is such that perhaps it receives maximum amount of rainfall in any golf course.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge amount of rain. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But first, I want to ask a few questions about the course. It's an 18-hole golf course. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And did you say it opened 15 or 20 years ago?
Yes, it opened, I think, in 2004 or something, so it should be around 20 years or so.
Okay. What is the number of rounds? How many rounds? And I suppose there's not a lot of rounds in the monsoon season.
Yes, actually, because what has happened here at Aamby Valley, we have tremendous amount of rain, and because of that rainy season, it's a continuous pouring basically for 2 3 months, and during those months we have to close the course. The reason being, it's not only the grass, but the ground becomes very soggy. So neither machinery nor equipment, not even a walking golf course, is in a playable condition. So we can't take machines in for 2 3 months, and the grass grows like again to its wild nature. And what happens? We can't take machines in rains because the ground becomes slushy. It's not very sandy. It's not sandy. So being a sort of a clay sand, machines can't enter. And for 2 3 months, it's just left to the nature sort of, and whatever minimal mowing we could do whenever we get some chance, we do that, and some sprays whenever we get a few windows to keep the grass alive and growing. And after monsoon, when it ends, generally September, late September, with October onwards, we start preparing the golf course, which is like, it has grown to like a wild tract. So we have to reclaim the golf course again back from monsoons, and we have to cut down the grown up grass. We have to prepare the course, and then at least 2 weeks it takes to bring back the golf course to its shape. So that's how after every monsoon, after closure of 2 3 months, we have to bring back the golf course. And because after monsoon, it's a winter season sort of. So October in this region is a winter season. Then we have November, December, which are winter months. So golfers' expectations are, huge to come and play this course, but we have just, we come out of the monsoon and we have to prepare. So there are a few challenges, but we prepare it, and then thereafter the course is open for play. And as we move on, it progresses, and it is playable within 2 3 weeks.
Do you cut it down? Let's say it grows up over the couple months of the monsoon. Do you cut it down with string trimmers, brush cutter type of equipment? I imagine you can't just go out there with a fairway mower and cut down grass that's 15 or 20 or 30 centimeters tall.
That's right. So what we do during monsoons, we generally take brush cutters, string mowers, and light equipment, handheld equipment, which we can use to keep the grass in check. But obviously, it's more than 150 acres of ground, so we can't mow everything. But wherever possible, we keep the grass in control. And thereafter, after monsoons, we have to, once the ground dries up, once the rain stops, we take larger equipment like rotary mowers, turf cats, or those kind of machines, which mow down, even slasher, the tractor towed slasher rotary mowers. We take those machines for the first cut because the grass really grows. Not only grass, but even weeds come up every season. So we have to cut them and mow them down with rotary mowers in the first go. Thereafter, stage wise, we move with finer machines, and eventually, after 2 weeks or so, we begin with fairway movers, and final finishing up and final preparation of the golf course happens in 2 weeks. That's how it goes after monsoon every year.
For the number of rounds, during the time it's open, how busy is the course? Do you keep track of? Does the club keep track of how many rounds are played?
Well, what I understand is because this course is also a residential, property, so many residents and members they stay here, and mostly people live in the nearby, Mumbai and Pune, so they have their residence here. They keep coming to play. So generally on Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, holidays, the course is almost like in a figure of say 70, 80 golfers coming during weekends every day.
Mm-hmm.
On other days, it could be say 30, 40. So in that range, it's spread out. But generally, the weekends are packed. Yeah.
When the golfers tee off, do they all tee off on the first hole, or do you simultaneously tee off on the first and the 10th tee? I'm asking that question because I'm wondering how much time you have ahead of play to prepare the course.
Well, generally, as I say that because we don't have a consistent, pressure of golfing rounds throughout the week, so we get our, time to prepare the course starting from Monday onwards, and slowly as the traffic keeps building up over the weekend, so it's not much of a stress as on date for me because I have my initial weekdays to prepare the course. But yes, we generally have first tee or maximum, 10th tee. So maximum two tee starts whenever required. Otherwise, it's not much of a traffic, and it's okay with that regard. Like we had in Delhi Golf Club or other clubs where I worked in, where we have to start from even three tees or even sometimes more than that. So
Oh, right. It's almost like a shotgun start. People just start from any tee they could find, right?
that's right. So this course for me is entirely a different, experience altogether. Right from Delhi Golf Club, where the challenges were different. Then
And
in between, I also moved to one of the golf courses in Ahmedabad or Gujarat, what we say. There, I had a entirely different experience. It was a course with a lot of soil related challenges which I had to face, especially sodic soils and all those kind of things. So
mhm.
there we had an entirely different challenge. Now here I see that rains and monsoon is the biggest challenge. So every course which I moved in these couple of years, they were entirely a different case altogether.
Yeah, I think people who haven't been to India, if they would ask what India's like or what golf in India is like, it's quite varied. And India is a huge country, and from my experience in India, traveling to different regions of India, the cuisine differs tremendously, and the language differs from different regions. And it's, to me, it's like going to a different country entirely. When you go from Calcutta to Mumbai or down to Chennai or something, it's like going from one country to the next. One place will have different food, different spices, different languages, and with golf, it's the same way, because you go from deserts to these hill stations to places with big water quality and water availability problems to places that have to close from too much water. Hi, I'm Micah Woods. Did you know you can get the latest turf management updates with Pace Turf? Weekly emails keep you informed. Check it out at paceturf.org.
Right. So, Micah, that's what in my experience also I realized that though I traveled a little here and there, like I happened to be fortunate enough to work briefly with Richard Forsyth at Royal Melbourne, John Gary at Kings Island, and to briefly at Wentworth for a week. I was there with different superintendents. I had a feeling, and I realized that okay, world has different challenges. Like in King Island, we have a ocean and Brass Strait and all those things as a challenge. But in India, I see that in India we have the entire world in different golf courses where you have maximum range. Then there are golf courses with tremendous salt situations. Then we have golf courses like Delhi Golf Club and a few others which have a tremendous, traffic, golfing traffic. So different kinds of golf courses exist in the entire country in India.
All right. Back to Aamby Valley. We because I'm trying to go through the questions here. Let's see. How many staff do you have? Tell me about the staffing numbers to take care of this 18-hole course.
Well, right now I have around 30 staffs in regular. So that's the strength I would say that I have as on date. But initially, when the course opened, as you know, it happens with any golf course. I think they had a lot of staff, lot many, right from management down the line. But now I'm the only one looking after as a superintendent, and we have a few permanent staffs like 30 odd people. Few staffs we hire when required on a contract basis, but the strength remains in 30, 35. That's the range which we have presently.
Okay. And is that men and women, or is it only men, or do you have any women working on the golf course maintenance?
Well, presently we have only men working on the course, so and mostly the local community guys who are there who work on the course. So they are from the local community, and that's how it is going on. But
Okay.
they are experienced in the sense that they had been working in the course since very beginning, so they are well in the job and they understand what they are doing. So nothing like that. So I have a trained sort of staff.
And then for you yourself, uh, your job title is golf course superintendent, and then who do you report to? Do you report to a general manager, an owner, a committee? How does that work?
Well, my key contact people here are my executive director of the company and my general manager. So those two people are there with whom I remain in direct contact. So that's the reporting system here we have.
What are the grass types? I've been meaning to get to this, which is something I'm so interested in. When the grass is growing up and then you're cutting it down, what grasses are you growing on tees, fairways, greens, and so on?
Well, Micah, the course, as I understand, it was initially built with stiff dwarf greens and on fairways, tees, it was I think, again, a Bermuda species, evergreen Bermuda or those kind of species. So that was the initial course as it was built some 20 years back. But over the years, due to some other reasons, whatever breaks came during, be it COVID or other reasons, uh, there was a tremendous encroachment by Exonopus compressus. So last 2 years back, when I first came to the course and I saw the course, I realized that it's almost everywhere Exonopus. So what we call carpet grass here. So that was there right from tees to fairways to rough. And as on date, uh, tees have become almost exonopus, fairways and roughs are exonopus. The initial grass is overtaken completely. Even greens had, contamination of exonopus growing here and there because we have 3 months monsoon closure also. So during that time also, weeds have enough opportunity to spread out and grow. So that was the initial challenge which I faced. That even the green scholars, they were all encroached by exonopus or carpet grass, and that caused a severe problem after monsoons when I came in. That we have to pull it manually, and because we pull it manually, it leaves a small mark or a small hole. Exonopus being
On the greens.
on the greens. So players and golfers, as they were waiting after monsoons to come and play the course, and when they found those holes left out by deweeding, that was a real challenge. So the playability was really not good in that sense. But slowly, over the last 1.5 years or 2 years, I had been successful in making the greens clean. So now they are all pure in the sense that they have now tip off only. And along with that, like every year I'm taking the weeds off the greens. So now in these 2 years, I'm able to move them around, say, 20 feet or 30 feet away from the greens. So right now, at least greens and green collars of 20, 30 feet, they are clean. But other than that, fairways and rough are completely sort of overtaken by carpet grass. So that's the in the fairway.
Okay. Yeah, that reminds me that if I remember correctly, the last time I went to Pune Golf Club, the fairways were carpet grass. They were Ixonopus compressus, and that tells me that. And also, if you go down to Mumbai, that would be the typical grass that you'd find in parks or other areas. It's just really well suited to that climate. I visited a museum near my home in southern Thailand yesterday, and they had a beautiful lawn of Ixonopus compressus, which I call tropical carpet grass. In Malaysia, it's called cow grass, but I find cow grass to make it sound like it's not such a good grass, and I kind of like it because it's so well suited to the tropical conditions. So I like to call it tropical carpet grass, which to me makes it seem a little bit better.
Yes, I agree with you, Mike, on this because every climate has its own preference for grasses, and I think if there could be a balance which could be struck between golfers and the grass, then sometimes it's also fine to keep grasses which are naturally to the area, and if they are able to give reasonable play. And I find that carpet grass also works in many situations with regard to, especially the course which I am right now. We maintain this in very economical way, and I think the one reason I'm able to do it is the simple reason that majority of the golf course is carpet grass or exonopus. So that brings my expenditure to a very to a lower level.
Yeah,
Had it been Bermuda or anything, it would have been a real challenge to maintain at low cost. So this is something which I find a boon in disguise.
yeah.
So
You don't have weed problems in Ixonopus compressus generally because it's one of the rare grasses that if you can supply it with enough water and mow it, it tends to form a monostand. But what you'll find with seashore paspalum or with Bermuda grass or some of these so-called finer grasses for warm season areas, they get weed infested. But tropical carpet grass actually can form a monostand on its own pretty well. So, and anything that's a weed, which might be zoysia or Bermuda grass within it, is actually desirable, and it kind of fits in between those larger leaf blades. All right, good. What's the number one golfer complaint? If they complain about things, what's the number one thing that they would complain about?
well, as golfers, in this golf course, what I realized, um, the number one golfers complain could be again the carpet grass.
Here we are talking about how good it is, and then the golfers complain. Okay,
The
tell me
the,
more.
the reason being they find it sometimes um, I know that even carpet grass can be a very good stand if we maintain it that way. But being fairway, rough, and we have a few other challenges with machinery and equipment and all that. So golfers mostly are used to play nowadays on Bermuda varieties in the nearby courses, in most of the courses in India. So when they land upon carpet grass, they find it difficult to play from those surfaces sometimes, unless they are very used to it. So many a times they say that we need to have those kind of grasses. So that's their only expectation, because they are fine with greens with everything else, but they want a smoother grass to be there. That's the only thing which I receive from members here.
Okay. Well, I think I'll be fighting this battle for the rest of my life. But yeah, I hear that complaint also. What kind of nitrogen rates do you use, especially for greens? But if you put nitrogen on other areas of the course, could you share what those are?
Um, Micah, I would say that I more or less follow the rates which came up with your MSLN guidelines, and I had been a fan of that kind of structure, since the time it evolved with your great efforts and contributions. So earlier, it was so many other things in my career when I was beginning with to get confused. But now I see that your MSLN guidelines, generally, if we are able to stick to it, and even lesser than that, we put in on grass, and that works very well and very, fine enough. So that's the basic trend which I try to follow in all golf courses wherever I worked since the time I got into touch with your research and your work, and that works very well for me. That's there. Even I see that even I am not able to many a times due to some other reasons to stick to that plan as well, and it's lower than that. But still, uh, greens and my grass remains almost okay without any problems to maintain. Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. Uh, so are you using the growth potential to predict based on the temperature in the year about how much nitrogen you may apply, and then you generally are doing something like that, but you don't necessarily apply that much? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, generally there's a basic budgeting with your growth potential parameters, and then it's not very. I don't stick very much directly to the day by day data that okay this much I have to put in all that, but I have a general understanding that okay this is the fertilizers the grasses would be needing, and eventually what happens. Um, it's feel on the green, because every time you walk after a few days you see that okay now the grass wants fertilization and all that. So on that feel and experience basis we keep fertilizing greens, but of course it's never off what we say, the MSLN guidelines. So it is lesser than that, but I think not more than that, and that makes my fertilization, overall economy very balanced rather than going for, and also especially in civil courses where we get into where budgets and all these things are every most of the time a talking point. So this gives me a decent tool to keep the budgets in line and still get the good grass without much of confusion. It's a simple, straightforward method. Yeah.
Do you? Let's see. Next question. During the season, during the autumn, winter, spring season, when the course is not inundated with heavy monsoon precipitation, what mowing heights do you use across the property?
Mowing heights uh, for greens, we generally keep grass around 3 mm plus minus. So when there is tournament or something, then we bring it down depending on situation, but it could be like 2.5 to 3 mm, then 3.5 mm sometimes if it's stressed out or something. So that's the range for greens which we keep generally we operate in. And with regard to tees, we generally keep around 8 to 10 mm, and for fairways, it could be like 14 or 15, depending on situations. And a rough is generally left with our bigger machines. So it could be more than more than an inch because we use the mostly tractor drawn rotary mower. So it could be like more than an inch, whatever it takes.
Okay. What brand of equipment are you using? Indian equipment, Toro equipment, John Deere, Jacobson, Japanese manufacturers, or is it a mix? Please tell me about the equipment.
Well, Micah, I would say this is again an experience for me. As I said, that every golf course was a unique experience for me to work with. And here, this is also a real experience because now the entire fleet of equipment is, I think, around 20 years old, whatever machines we have. And they were initially Textron Jacobson. And for last 20 years since the course opened, I think there has not been a new addition. So most of the equipment is old, and it's local repairs and maintenance and all that, which with which we are able to keep the machines functional and working, and we have to deal with that. So that's a challenge here in this property, but still we are able to take the golf course forward every day with whatever equipment we have here.
Okay, so you have an old fleet of Jacobson equipment.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I hope you can get some new pieces of equipment when the time is right.
Yeah,
That's always nice to have. It's so hard to do the job without all the equipment that you could have.
that's right.
Do you do any coring or solid tine cultivation on the putting greens?
Putting greens, as I say, that there are several challenges at the site with regard to equipment and many other things as well. So we do aeration and coring, especially after monsoons and once during summers. So at least two corings we do, and that's also like 8-10 mm. We don't go beyond that because I see that mostly we go for verticutting and grooming. So these operations I try to compensate for coring to avoid disruptions, and as long as the greens are playing well and good. So that's how it's balanced. So that's the strategy for last 2 years on this course, and I'm hopeful that when we have more of equipment and other things, then we would be further fine tuning our aeration and other cultural operations, which needs to be done with different equipments and tools. Yeah.
Okay, good. Maybe it's so easy for me to talk with you about metric units, but some of the metric units that we've talked about, let me translate some of these for the listeners out here who are not so familiar with the metric system. 8 to 10 millimeters in terms of tine diameter is something like about 3/8 of an inch. When you're talking the mowing heights, such as 3 millimeters, that's 3 millimeters is a little bit under an eighth of an inch. It's about 0.110 inches. And when you're talking about 5,500 millimeters of precipitation, that's going to be something like 16 or 17 feet of rain. If I in a few months, if I'm doing that in my head properly. So, yeah, that's good. How about sand? So, when you're doing the coring, do you fill those holes with sand, or do you do top dressing with sand at other times of year on the greens?
Yeah, we top dress greens with sand, which we have from the past, past dumps in the course. I haven't got new sand, but we have some stockpiles. So I just seed them, keep them. Most of the time, we have to make the resources from within, because the property is huge. So sometimes we are able to get materials from here and there, and then we sieve it and clean it, and we use it on greens. Not too much top dressing done on greens, but because we do generally two courings, and they are also not very, 1 inch or something like, which I used to do on other courses. So here it's not too much of a demand for that kind of a sand top dressing as on date. But yes, we do top dressing with available sand here.
What is your irrigation water source? Is it boreholes or wells, or is it a reservoir that captures that precipitation that falls, or is it where do you get the water?
Yes, Micah, here water is not a problem, in the sense, as I said, it rains too much here, and the property has, I think, two, three big reservoirs, natural reservoirs as well, which are around the property. So that's monsoon rain, which accumulates there, water harvested in those, lakes, with dams and all that. So water is not a problem in that sense, and we get enough water as and when needed. The only thing is our irrigation system again is like 20 years old, so we have challenges of pipelines breaking every now and then, and other irrigational faults happening every now and then. That's the challenge, but the source and the water as such is not a problem at the property.
What are the three main pests that you deal with? If you think of that off the top of your head, what would those be?
Well, with regard to pest, I would say, uh, at this site, it's not much of an insect problem. Once or twice, I noticed, few times, not to very high intensity or very high extent pest, infestation, but maybe grubs and a few RB worms here and there, but not to the extent that they really cause a problem. So, so a general insecticide, application was done, and it takes my entire problem off. So nothing very hectic insecticide plan required here, as it used to be in the other post which I worked, where I had to have an insecticide application every 15 days, because army worms, grubs, and all sort of insects were there every 15 to 20 days, and it's a repeat cycle, and a huge cost damage is happening. Especially, I'm talking about the courses in Ahmedabad where I worked. So there, it was like 6, 8 months of severe insect, along with the soil issues. Insects was the main challenge. But here I realized that there's no much of a pest problem with regard to insects. Fungus, of course, is a problem, but that's because of the rains, and we have to manage that during monsoon with our normal fungicide program. But all in all, I think the rains washes off most of the thing, and somehow the climate is appropriate, that it won't allow much of insects to cause damage to grass.
Wow. So you and as far as weeds go, there's no big weed problems either, because you've reached some climax species now, where you've got the carpet grass where you want it, and you remove the carpet grass from where you don't want it. It sounds like you're in a wonderful growing environment, a garden of places, like a garden hotspot to grow grass.
Yes, you can say in that sense. I would say we don't have much of a pest problem. We have a reasonably, controlled fungus problem. Weeds, I would say weeds, because monsoon is a time when we are not able to mow the grasses, so it gives a window for weeds to come up again and again. So I would say that it's not a situation where we don't have a weed problem. We certainly have weed problems more than insects and more than fungus, I would say. So that's there. Yeah.
Okay. Is this job, a golf course superintendent job, would you consider this to be a trade or a profession? And by trade, I mean, do you understand what I mean by the question of trade versus profession?
I understand it my way, but if you could elaborate from where you are coming in, which way you want to take it.
Yeah, well, I think of a trade as something like you're doing a skill, and so it's a very specialized skill that you're doing. And then so we have tradespeople that may be building houses or installing electrical systems or that sort of thing. Or then there's professions where perhaps it's more something that you've had to go to get a formal education about, and you still might have to do the work, but perhaps it's something that you more think about. So a profession, I'm thinking more it's like lawyers, doctors, that sort of thing. And in some parts of the world, like in the United States, the education system is set up to train golf course superintendents like they are on a professional career path. So we would go to school with people that are also going to be doctors and lawyers. But then we go do something that, when it comes down to it, the work is almost like a trade. And you see in England, in Australia, in those countries, the education system is set up where people who become golf course superintendents are they go through an educational program that's more like they're going into a trade. And I notice, as I see turf grass management all around the world, that some people consider it a trade, some people consider it a profession. There's no real answer to this, but I'm so interested to ask what your perception of it is coming from your background. And with what you're doing now. And so do you have any comments on that?
Well, Micah, as per my experience in the last 20 years, I would say that it's still difficult to, bracket this job or this profession into any category. It's unique in the sense that like for me, I am a graduate from one of the agricultural universities in plant sciences. So I graduated from there, and I have all the understanding educationally, in that sense, right from plant science to cell biology to physics, chemistry, and all that. So I realized that there are superintendents without that kind of, educational, beginning, but still there could be good superintendents and they are able to do it. But I always feel that a formal education or training in this background helps you throughout your career. It gives you a larger perspective, I would say, to understand, because when I am on the course, I know right from insects to fungus, what is going on within them, so I can visualize that. And now you call it a profession or a trade, it depends. But as a superintendent, I realized that I had to know good maths, I had to know good statistics, I had to have a good logical reasoning, and above all, I have to have good common sense. I have to be a good, communicator, because you have to deal with people of all kinds, right from lower the worker on the ground to the top owners. So this is a profession where I don't think that it's only in school which could be taught. You can start from a school with your initial foundation, but over the years, as you move around in the industry, you develop and you evolve as a superintendent. And it's a lot of experience, a lot of gathering skills of all kinds: science, physics, chemistry, biology, humanities, social science, statistics, whatnot. I think every day a superintendent has to apply all kind of skills, and as much skills he can keep on growing and gathering, the more successful he becomes. So it's difficult to put it as a like a doctor. Okay, he has to be in a hospital, he has to treat things the way he is taught. nothing off he can go. But in golf course, I see that there are many hacks which you can actually use to get the problem solved, which you might not do as a engineer in a construction of a building or a golf course. But of course, there is much more a science than a doctor, because he the patient at least tells him that, okay, this is the problem I have. So he has at least a basic input. Now, as a superintendent, when you go on the greens, they are living things, but they speak nothing. You have to just see them, and the only symptom they give you is yellow or dry, or that's the only symptom they give. Now, why it is happening, how it is happening, it's all too much of an understanding from different sources. So I think it's a complicated sort of profession, where you also need to be a super hopeful person to survive, and to remain strong, because the challenges could be from all directions, right from nature to climate to your workers to your management, and still you have to do your job to the best possible way within the constraints which are there by default in the profession or in the trade.
Thank you. And before we end this episode, I want to ask you if there's something that we should know about you, or that you'd like to share, whether perhaps it's a hobby or something about your hometown or your anything, that we would feel remiss if we didn't mention in the show. Because I sometimes people are interesting and do interesting things. Maybe they play an instrument and they've been in a band, or they're a national sporting champion in some obscure sport. And if we don't share that, I feel like, oh, we didn't say something very interesting about that person that the listeners should know. So is there anything about you that you'd like to share before we close out this episode?
Well, Micah, I would say that most of the time I meet people in golf or turf industry, and people say that, okay, golf is life, and golf is something which I am born for, I am living for golf, and this and that. So that's fine, but people have their own perspective. But for last 20 years, I had been working for golf, and this is perhaps the best thing I landed up. I would say that it was not my choice, but I was introduced to it. I liked it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm doing it. But other than that, also I think there's life, and life is a larger thing. Golf is just a part of it, and your profession too. And in that, I realized that I liked writing, and writing fiction novels. And over the years, I thought that I should be working on that. So I wrote one fiction on golf first, playing for the game, by the name Playing for the Game. So that was the novel which I wrote for the first time, with a golfing sports background. And thereafter, as I had my kids growing up, I thought I should be writing something for kids as well. So I wrote a fiction fantasy novel for them, The Kingdom of Artasia. So that was also there. Then I am planning to bring one or two more, volumes of it. So second part and third part. So that's what I like doing other than golf. So yes, fiction writing, literature, novel. That's what I like most.
That's terrific. So, can people buy these from Amazon.co.India, or where could people find these books if they're available?
Yeah, these fictions are available, I think, on all online platforms, Amazon or whatever. I think they are everywhere. And the fiction on golf is by the name Playing for the Game, and the kids' fiction is by the title The Kingdom of Artasia. It's a fantasy novel for adult kids or young kids, and I'm just finishing up the second part of it. So I think that will also come soon.
Wow. Well, that's cool. See, I'm glad I asked that question. I'll chat with you after the call and get these exact links, and I'll put the names of those books in the show notes for anybody who wants to check those out. All right, Bhupendra Singh, the golf course superintendent at Aamby Valley Golf Club in the state of Maharashtra, Western India, has been the guest on this episode of Turf Without Borders. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Bhupendra, and for sharing the information about the way that you do turfgrass management there.
Thank you, Micah. Thank you very much for having me on your show. I feel glad to see you, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. I'll sign off now for ATC from Trang, Thailand. I'm Micah Woods. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm Micah Woods. I'd like to remind you that if you want to prevent turf problems, Pace Turf's weather alerts are customized for your location. Visit paceturf.org for details.